Good morning, YouTube universe. This is Topanga. I am known by many names: the Wizard of Oz, the Piddler on the Roof. But today I am going to carry the show because these two guys, they do their best, but that's all they got. So I'm introducing today the hosts of my show. They're hosting it for me, my mommy and daddy. Yay! Good job, little Panga.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. are back with your second episode of
The Mr. and Mrs. Sportscast. And I'm off here dealing with the star because she's a diva.
Yes.
Now, we are here. Unfortunately, last week we did not do a show because we had something come up. We came out here ready to do the show, and maybe an hour before we were going to record, a tree had fallen down in our driveway. So we had to go out there and deal with that, and that was an all-day thing, having to cut off tree limbs and whatnot and clear the driveway so we could use it. So it was kind of a nightmare, but we got through it. But after that, we didn't have any energy left to do this show. So we did what we could, but, unfortunately, this was what we had to deal with. You can see that. That was our driveway, full of that. So we had to do what we could. But we're back this week, and, unfortunately we didn't give our predictions for the championship game last week, AFC and NFC. But we'll go over it just to give our thoughts on what we saw out there. So, Mrs., what did you think about the championship games? Did they go how you thought?
No, they actually didn't. I thought Baltimore would beat Kansas City. That was going to be my pick. I was definitely surprised that Lamar Jackson couldn't come out and do it. I thought they were kind of destined to go to the not to the World Series, to the Super Bowl. Let me get my sports straight. And But Kansas City played a good game, and when it comes down to it, they always find a way to win with Mahomes and Travis Kelce. They definitely don't have as many offensive weapons, though. I feel like Mahomes throws to Travis Kelce, but not a lot of other wide receivers. But we'll see if Travis and Taylor Swift and the whole love story Kansas City, how they do in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, that Lamar Jackson, he just can't go the full 9 innings, can he?
Absolutely.
He couldn't win the World Series. He just doesn't win the big one. I don't know. I guess you haven't been watching football as long as I thought, because this is who Lamar Jackson's always been. I mean, in the regular season, he's lights out, and then he either gets injured or when it counts the most, he craps the bed. So, I mean, he kind of did what I expect him to do. I mean, I've been saying if Kansas City is going to, I'm not going to believe that they're going to lose, a meaningful game like that until someone shows me better. So I wasn't going to bet against Kansas City in that situation. Plus, it would have been too good for me to end up getting Taylor Swift out of my life. So, we're still stuck with her. So what'd you think of the NFC Championship game?
Well, that was interesting because the first half was all the Detroit Lions. I did pick San Francisco to win. And I do like the San Francisco team. I like Brock Purdy and McCaffrey. So, but Detroit had the whole first half, and then they couldn't do anything in the second half, and then San Francisco came out in the second half and just took it away from them. So, but it would have been a good story to have Detroit in the Super Bowl after 30 years. But I think that's what most people were kind of rooting for, was a Baltimore-Detroit Super Bowl. But I think the networks and all the people making the money think that KC San Francisco is a better market. So
Probably. I would have just loved it so we could have. I would have loved to have Kansas City versus Detroit because I wanted Taylor Swift versus Eminem, but that's just me. And I'll point out, Eminem was actually there at the game. He was in San Francisco in the suite, and they didn't show him once. The only reason I knew he was there was because afterwards, I think TMZ, I saw an article that showed him flipping off a fan. So that's the only reason I know he was there. Taylor Swift, they must have showed her 10 times at least during that AFC Championship game. So I think that's a little bias there. But maybe it's the fact that if they're afraid if they show him, he'd be showing him flipping off somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not sure what he's going to do. He's a little wild card, and Taylor's just going to have her smile with her red lipstick. Every time Travis catches the ball, they show her.
She's the golden girl. It's like, God, man, just stuck with her again for another couple weeks. And I even saw that she's in Japan the day before doing a show, and like the Japanese government assured everybody that they'll make sure she gets on the plane and gets there in time. I'm like, really? Is she that much of a priority? Do we care? So I'm just tired of everybody acting like she's a deity or something. But whatever, it is what it is.
She's brought them a lot of money and a lot of merchandise and a lot of different things.
Yeah, I understand over $200 million since she's been going to Kelsey's games. I'm just amazed that people have that little of a bit of a life, that they go through all this trouble just because she's attending a football game. She's not participating in it in any way. She's literally just parking her butt in a seat in the stadium, and it generates all this extra interest. They've got now a new audience of these brainwashed girls who got nothing better to do. I'm just always amazed people have nothing better to do in their life than this. I mean, I could never, even in my heyday, the bands I loved and whatnot, I like going to their concerts, I buy their albums, but I didn't give a crap what they were doing once they weren't singing their songs. I just cared about them doing the songs. I didn't care about their personal life. So I can't relate to this at all.
But they did get a lot of more football fans out of it. Taylor's bringing more love, so we'll see.
I don't know, man. I don't get the hype. I just never been into any performer or celebrity like that, so I just don't get it. So yeah, I mean, as far as the NFC Championship game, I give San Francisco a lot of credit. I mean, that was a test. I mean, they were down 3 scores at halftime, and but for some reason though, the whole time I felt like they'd at least make a run in the second half, whether they'd come up short or win. I didn't think that was the end of it at halftime, and they came back and they won it, and I think they ended up winning by double digits. So that just shows you that they've got the firepower and the talent that they can score a bunch of points at any time. So
as long as they don't get injured, you want to make sure that they're healthy, and then they have a lot of weapons to go to, which they might have more weapons than Kansas City offensively.
Yeah, the whole thing is the injuries. As long as they stay healthy, because we saw during the middle of the season when a couple of their guys got hurt, Deebo Samuel and their left tackle Trent Williams. When that happened, the team lost, I think, like three in a row. So as long as they're healthy and all their guys are playing to the best of my knowledge in the Super Bowl, so as long as they can get through that game healthy, I mean, I think they'll do pretty well. But we'll get into the picks later. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the Pro Bowl. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about this thing. I mean, it's kind of a joke to me. I think it's okay, that part where they do like the skills competition, but the NFL, there's such an injury risk that they really just can't do anything. I'm not sure, other than a money grab, what purpose the Pro Bowl serves anymore. They don't even play a real game. They now play, flag football, which is, to me, is just ridiculous. It's like, that would be like, when baseball holds their all-star game, they play like, T-ball or wiffle ball game or something. I mean, it's crazy. What do you think about the Pro Bowl?
I used to like it when it was after the Super Bowl, so then everybody could participate in it. They weren't so worried about injuries, and it was more a real game. Mm-hmm. But really, except for the baseball all-star game, I really don't have the interest in the sports all-star games that I used to. The Pro Bowl just doesn't have the meaning. And we're in Florida, and I know it's happening right in Orlando, and it should probably, get the hype, but yeah, I'm just not really feeling it. I don't even know if we're going to tune into it for that much today.
I'm not sure either. I don't think I've watched it in quite a few years now. I agree that the baseball all-star game, I think, is the only real all-star game anymore that's worth a crap. I mean, basketball, they don't even play defense. For a while there, they weren't even doing East versus West. It was just like they'd pick 2 captains who would choose a team and make picks. So it just felt too schoolyardish to me. Hockey, they don't even try to play defense either. The goalie's just kind of there just to be there. A lot of those hockey all-star games, they score double-digit points. The football, this is... Not that they were not to say that when they were actually putting on the pads and playing a real football game that they were even really doing that, because they wouldn't even hit each other. They would just like play patty cake, the linemen, and then they would just throw the ball and throw it up and down the field. So not that was much of a game, but at least they were putting on the pads and trying to make it look like a real game. Now they're in shorts playing flag football. If I want to watch flag football, I'll go to my local high school and watch them do that.
Right.
So I don't think there's much to that game. We're not even going to make a pick on who wins that, because it's just not a real game. there's not even anything to pick. There's just nothing you can do with that. I mean, I get that they're trying to make it safe, but if you're that worried about it, then just don't even bother. I mean, a lot of the players don't even show up to get picked anyway, even now that it's flag football. So you end up with the fourth or fifth all-star picks, starting the game. So there's not much you can do with it. I mean, it's like you said, it's here in Orlando, and I've never even gone to it. I have no interest in it whatsoever.
I know. We got to discuss the coaching changes that have happened. So now every NFL team has a coach.
Yeah, it's all set. The last coach got picked up there. So, obviously we're not going to go through all of them. I mean, there were a total of 8 teams that got new coaches. So I guess I would ask you, what do you think what's the one that stuck out to you as far as the new NFL coaches?
I think Harbaugh going to the Chargers is probably the one that's probably going to make the most impact. I think Harbaugh is a great coach. I mean, obviously he's won national championship, I know, this year, and I think he's won one before as a coach. I'm not positive about that.
I mean, I know he won Michigan, and then he went to the Super Bowl with San Francisco right before he left for Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's got a really good record for NFL and college. There aren't too many coaches. I mean, other than Pete Carroll, I can't think of any that had some success at both levels. But, I mean, that's a pretty good hire for them. I mean, that's one that I like because even though he's 60 years old, he still feels like he's got some new ideas. He doesn't feel like one of those older coaches who's stuck in his ways and hasn't evolved with the sport. So I think that would be a good one. I think that...
And I think like San Diego's a good team, too. I think they have a good quarterback. I think...
You talking about the Padres?
No.
Ain't no team in San Diego anymore.
Oh, that's right. The Chargers. The LA Chargers. I always call them the San Diego. Yes, the LA Chargers. So, but I think they have a good core. So I think he's going to come and, it won't take, 4 years to make him competitive. He could do that in a year or two.
Yeah. And plus the fact that the cupboard with that team with the Chargers, I don't think it's bare. I mean, they've got some talented players. It's not like some of these teams where maybe you're just completely starting over with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that factored in his decision of where to go. Did you also see how much money he's getting paid? He's getting paid quite a bit. I think it's almost $15 million a year.
Oh, that's a nice payday.
Yeah, that's a nice payday.
How many years did he get on his contract?
I think it's 5.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good payday for him. Obviously, he was already making over $10 million a year in Michigan, so they were going to have to eclipse that in order to get him to make the jump. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
I mean, I would say the thing I look at the most that I think stands out, not that it's a surprise, but just that it is significant, is that, who's left standing with no job. I mean, Bill Belichick didn't get a job. I kind of thought that was going to happen, but I thought maybe there'd be like one team out there that would just be so razzle-dazzled by his past accomplishments that they would bring him in just because of his name. But that didn't happen. I mean, in the end, he only really got an interview with the Falcons, and he got 2 interviews with them. And then when they decided to go a different way and get Raheem Morris as their head coach, I kind of thought, yeah, that's probably it for him. I don't think any of the other teams are going to give him any consideration. Did that surprise you at all that Belichick ended up with nothing?
It was a little surprising. I thought some team would probably pick him up just because of his record, his reputation. I know he's in his 70s, right? 73.
Yeah, 72 going 73.
So that's going to make a difference. But he may have seen his last year of coaching because I think he's going to do some broadcasting for a year.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he may like that and not want to go back to coaching. So we'll have to see, or if any team wants to pick him up after that. I think sometimes once you leave it and gone for a year or two, it might be hard to get back into it.
All right.
The team to take him. So we'll have to see with that.
I definitely think he's gonna have to sit out for a year. And I've seen him on the NFL Network. Sometimes he's been on some specials. He'll probably be a pretty good analyst. He knows his football. I mean, there's no doubting that. And he'll be able to bring some wisdom there. But, yeah, I think he's got to sit for a year, and then next year is probably his last chance to try and get a job. I will disagree with you, though. I don't think he'll be content being in commentary because he's so close to Don Shula's record, and he's going to want to get that record for himself. I mean, he's probably going to need 2.5 seasons of wins, and that's if he can get like 8-9 wins a season where he'll break the record. So I think that I think he wants that record. So I think that's going to motivate him to keep coming back. Plus, I mean, a lot of those guys in their mind, they never see, the game has passed them by. They never see my way is past. They always think they've got something to bring. So I think in his mind, he still thinks he has, something to offer. So I'm sure he'll be in the mix next year, and then he'll probably just hope that he can, get on with a team for a couple of years so he can get that record. I think that's his main motivation. But that I'm not going to say it was surprising to me because the NFL is very much what have you done for me lately, and I thought most of the teams probably wouldn't look at what he's done in the past. They would look at what he did the last few years, and the last 5 years or so, he hasn't done that much. I mean, I think the last year of Brady, they went out in the first round, and since then, they haven't really done much at all. I mean, I think they may have made the playoffs one time in the wild card and got blown out. And the last 3 years in a row, I don't think they've made the playoffs at all. So, I mean, it's what have you done for me lately?
Do you think he'll be more successful if he's not the GM, or it's going to be hard to give up all that control if he could get a GM coaching job again?
I think that's going to be hard, and I think that's probably the trade-off he's going to have to make if he wants to get one more shot at that record. I think he's going to have to give up the power. I mean, that's what makes it, to me, another thing that worked against him was if you're a potential team that he's trying to be the coach for, you have to look at it and say, well, you couldn't win over there with all that power. You were essentially the GM and the coach. You had final say on personnel. As an owner, I probably don't want to give you that much power as a new coach coming in. So how are you going to do any better for me when you couldn't do anything over there with all those advantages? You had more to work with and more say than any other coach in your position, and you still couldn't get the job done. And you had one of the worst records in the league this year, and your team was at the bottom in points scored. So why do I think it's going to be any different starting from scratch with my franchise? So not a surprise, just it's hard to adjust to after this guy's been a head coach for 24 straight years in the NFL, that he couldn't even get one job, even with one of the lower franchises. So I not a total shock, but at the same time, something to get used to.
That's true.
So, yeah.
And a lot of the other coaches went to offensive or defensive coordinators, right?
Yeah, out of the 8 coaches, 5 defensive-minded coaches got the job. I don't understand that. That's way beyond my comprehension because all you got to do is look at the stats. You look at the Final Four in the championship game that just happened last week, all 4 had offensive-minded head coaches. I think only 2 of the 8 that made the divisional round were defensive head coaches. So I don't understand that. And I think of the division winners, 7 of the 8 were offensive-minded head coaches. I mean, I don't understand as an owner. You look at that and say, well, the league has shifted towards offense. It's well known that all the rule changes have been to favor the offense. The NFL wants more points, more offense. It's sexier. I don't understand why then when they're looking for a head coach, they would go backwards and say, well, let me go with these defensive-minded head coaches. I mean, maybe some of these younger guys will be less conservative than, that Tony Dungy era. But it just looks to me, it's like, well, the offensive coaches are having the majority of the success. I'm trying to get my program back where it needs to be. Why wouldn't I want to go in that direction? So it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. What did you see about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting that they didn't kind of recycle other coaches, or change, different. I think the coordinators are good, but it probably to go with the offensive coordinators instead of the defensive coordinators. It's definitely more offensive minded right now, so we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, defense is obviously important, but if you can't score the points, you need to be able to score probably 20 points a game to really win,
I would
or
say
17.
at least 3 touchdowns. I mean, you look at the top defense this year was the Ravens, and they were tops, giving up 16, almost 17 points a game, and that was the top defensive team. You go back to when the Ravens had their original run in 2000 when they won the Super Bowl, they were giving up like exactly 10 points a game. Like if you got double digits on them, it was a miracle. Those days of the defense can just control the whole game and the other team won't score no points and you can just have a great defense and a manager quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over. I think those days are done. You have to be scoring points. You got to be scoring over 3 touchdowns a game to win. This, will just barely break double digits and our defense will hold. That way doesn't work anymore. The rules don't favor that. I mean, now all quarterback's got to do is just heave a ball 50 yards in the air and he's probably got a 40% chance it'll be called an interference penalty, and they're right there in scoring position. You can't hit the quarterback below his waist. You can't hit him above his chest. You've got very little margin for error when you're hitting that quarterback. More than likely in a game, you're going to get at least 1 or 2 roughing the passer calls, which is going to move them way up the field. So you can't just do that. You can't just hold the team like they used to and just run the ball out and run the clock out. Those days don't work anymore. So
no more Chicago Bears and New York Giants of the 80s. Those defenses.
No more of that 3 yards in a cloud of dust stuff. That stuff ain't going to work anymore. That Dungy whole Tony Dungy philosophy of, well, we'll dominate the clock, the possession, and get 3-4 yards of play and get some first downs and move the clock. That don't work anymore. So you've got to score. You've got to be putting up points nowadays because the other team's going to get their chances to put up at least 3 touchdowns. So you've got to be able to score. And that means being aggressive. That means as a coach, when you've got 4th and 1s, you got to go for it. That means when you're in the other side when you're on the other side of the 50-yard line, you got to be putting up points. You can't just have that field position battle anymore and hope to win a game that way. That just doesn't work. I mean, that's why I was probably most of the hirings. The one that surprised me the most was actually Raheem Morris getting another shot because he coached my Bucks, and I can tell you right now that that 2 seasons that he was with the Bucks, I mean, just didn't work. I mean, he was more of a player's coach. He was too much of their buddy instead of being their coach. And I just think defensive philosophies overall don't work in the league anymore. You've just got to be trying to score points. So maybe he's learned something, and this time it'll be different. But I don't know. I think you've got to get that bright young offensive mind to be your head coach. Because even if you have a great offensive coordinator, if you've got a head coach that's very conservative, he's going to handcuff that coordinator because it's going to limit what he can do. They don't want to throw the ball down the field as much. They don't want to go for it on 4th down as much. And that limits what an offensive coordinator can do, even if he's a brilliant mind and a brilliant play caller. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. But, man, I don't understand that. I think I would have thought it would have been a bunch of offensive-minded coaches getting the jobs.
Yeah, we'll have to see next season how these 8 new coaches do with their teams and, what's affecting them and how successful they can be.
Yeah, it's going to be up in the air, but I think it's going to turn out like it did this season. You're going to see the ones that have those bright young offensive minds, and even somebody like an Andy Reid, who even though he's older, he thinks young. Those are the guys. I think you'll see the same teams having success.
We'll have to see
like they did this year.
We'll have to see if Washington can turn it around. They have a new coach, and they got rid of Dan Snyder as their owner. Maybe they can turn it around.
Yeah, but so far with their moves, it feels like the same old crap. I don't see where they're doing anything to really make a splash and change things.
Yeah, so that was my team for years, but I didn't like their name change, the Commanders. So now I'm looking other places.
They're not commanding respect, I can tell you that much. But anyway, we'll get to the Super Bowl picks here. We're going to do our Super Bowl picks.
Yes.
So we already know it's going to be the Chiefs and the 49ers. So I'll let you do your pick first and let me know why you think it's going to be the way it's going to be.
I'm going to pick San Francisco. It's kind of a little bit, I like San Francisco better than Kansas City. I think they have a lot of weapons to go to. They're good offensively. I do like Brock Purdy. The husband always says, he's so purdy. So There you go. And I think they're very well-rounded. I think they have a good defense, and I think they can definitely pull it off. It's a little scary with Kansas City because I have a feeling that Mahomes and Travis Kelce find any way they can to win and do have the experience. But I want San Francisco to win, and they're going to be my pick. And I think their offense, even if they're behind in the first half, they can come back in the second half, and they've been proven that they can turn it around. So I'm going with the 49ers.
All right. Well, I'm going to fake you out a little bit because when we were having our pre-show discussions, I had said I was leaning towards San Francisco, but the more I think about it and I think of what a business the NFL is, I think maybe it's going to be the Chiefs again. And here's why. Like we were just previously discussing, this whole Taylor Swift being involved now, going to these games, just her going to the games, not even doing anything formally with the NFL. Over $200 million they estimate in additional revenue that over the last quarter, just by having her face on the camera. So I got to think that they're going to want to pursue that partnership further, and that they think that the Chiefs, with their association with Taylor Swift, is what's best for their business right now. I'm not going to say that the NFL is rigged, like the WWE is. It's not like that, but I do think that the NFL communicates to their officials certain ways that they want them to call the game. By that, I mean an emphasis on call these penalties more, or look more for these penalties. Don't look more for these penalties. And I think that there'll be conversations with those officials about certain ways that they want to call the game and certain emphasis they want to put on certain things. And I think those things will just happen to favor the Chiefs. I'm not going to say the fix is in, but I think that the NFL would love for the Chiefs to win and have Taylor standing out there by the podium when they're giving that trophy out, and get her mug on the camera every 2 seconds. So I just think, you can officiate games a certain way that favors one team over another. I'm not saying you're shaving points or anything like that, but you can kind of dictate how the officiating goes in favor of another team. And a team like the Chiefs, they already know how to win these games. So if you give them any kind of a leg up, they'll figure out a way to take advantage of that and win. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I mean, I think they'll find a way.
Do you think it's high scoring or low scoring?
I think it's medium scoring. I don't think it'll be like one of the higher scoring games we've ever seen, but I don't think it'll be really low like when the Giants faced the Bills or any of that stuff back in the day. I think it'll be somewhere in the middle, so average.
Like 24-20 something, or a little more in the
something
30s?
something like that, and it'll come down to what happens at the very end. And I'm sure a call or two will go where we're going to be like, what the hell is that call? And it's going to go in the favor of the Chiefs somehow, and then they'll find a way to take advantage of that and score the winning score. I mean, I think it'll be a close game, but I think things will somehow work out for the Chiefs where they'll find a way to take advantage and get over the top. I'm not going to really get into point spreads or anything because we're still a week away from the game. I don't like to talk about point spreads until closer to a few days out from the game because too many things can happen, and Vegas will change that point spread up and down depending on where the action is. So I'm not going to get into that like I normally would, but yeah, I think it'll be a close game, and it'll be like one of those deals where there'll be like some call that goes in favor of the Chiefs that swings the whole game, and everybody will be up in arms. It'll be one of those deals.
Yeah, not that many Super Bowls have been very close. Normally it's a blowout, very one-sided. So
this one will be close like last year's was, I think. But
I think
there's going to be some crazy call that's going to go in one way over the other, and that's going to determine the game. It'll be some crazy call that people are going to be up in arms about, that kind of deal. And since we did our picks, so next week's show, which will be right before the Super Bowl, we're not going to be doing our picks since obviously we did them now, but this one, Topanga, is going to be doing her picks. Come here, Topanga. Tell everybody you're going to be doing your pick. Yeah, it's me, Topanga. I'm going to be doing my picks next week. You heard the amateurs do their picks. I'm going to do the real pick next week. So you guys need to tune in to see me do my pick, because my pick's the one that's going to win, and mine's going to be the one that you guys need to be putting your money on. If you're making any bets or any pools or anything, you need to do it with me. I'm not only going to give you the score, the winner, I'm going to give you the score. And it's going to be what Penga says, because this is my show. And I'm out of here. I'm going back to sleep. I had enough of this.
And please like us, share us, and give us comments, because we'd like to hear what you have to say, whether you agree with us or disagree. Don't forget to subscribe. And please subscribe. But we want to hear what comments. That can be a little interactive show. We want to be the most interactive show on YouTube. And
yeah, we're not trying to be like these other people that are on here where they're just talking heads and they tell you what to hear. We want you to tell us what you want to hear. What do you want us to talk about? Even if it's off sports, it's off topic with sports. You want to talk about something like that? You want to talk about fashion, which is, more up her bag than mine, but whatever. I mean, if we don't have interaction from you guys, and we're just a bunch of talking heads up here, and we don't want to be talking heads. We want to actually be interactive. We want to have a relationship with our fans where you guys tell us what you want to talk about. Go ahead, ask questions, comments. You tell us we stink. I don't care. We haven't had that many comments. We're getting some okay viewership, but we're not getting a lot of comments. If you think I'm a schmuck, say it. I don't care. I'll read it out. I'll read the comments on here. I don't care if they're good, bad, or ugly. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me much. I mean, I'm doing this because my wife wants to do the show. I love my wife, and She wants to do the show, I'll do the show. But, give me something to talk about here because we don't want to just be wrangling off at the mouth here. So I would just say, just again, and please give us a subscribe if you can and some comments and likes. And if you don't like something, then put it in the comments and we'll talk about it. I don't care. Everything's on the table right now. There's a pretty new show, so we're willing to put it all out there. But, we'll take it from there. Anything else you got to say, Mrs.?
No, I think we pretty much summed it up, and we have lots of interest. So if it's not sports, and once football's over, can't wait till baseball season and spring training.
Please. I mean, if y'all don't give me something to talk about, I have to talk about baseball, and that's just like bludgeoning myself in the head. I mean, baseball's okay, but I don't want to talk about that every week. So if y'all got any other comments, anything else you want to talk about, football, sports, wine, food, anything but baseball. Because if I got to do baseball every week, man, I'm going to hang myself. I swear, I can't do it. But yeah, anything else y'all got? I mean, we do a lot of stuff here. We have very varied interests. Even pro wrestling. I mean, I know a lot of people think it's fake, but I still think there's artistry in it. And I have some friends in the wrestling industry, so I keep up with that as well. So anything you guys want to talk about, you guys are having a chance here with a show on YouTube where you can dictate what's being talked about. You don't just have to tune into these shows and just listen to whatever they want to talk about. You can dictate what you want on the show. If you guys want to make comments and you want to be on the show, we'll have you on. You can call in. I want an interactive show. I don't just want to be sitting here just spouting off at the mouth. So whatever you guys want to do, get on those comments. Let us know. Don't read minds. If I did, I'd be rich. So just let us know, and we can take it from there. Anything else you want to add, Mrs.?
Nope, sounds good.
All
It's
right.
been a pleasure.
And then don't forget, like, subscribe, comment.
comment.
And let's get this show going. Bye.
Bye.